it's with writers younger than you all, reality TV has impacted so much of, no, and this is not addressing your question, but people think this is you, like if it's first person singular, then they say like the I is, you know, you, and you could be like Gustave Flaubert said at the obscenity trial for Madame Bovary, you know, Madame Bovary c'est moi, so they said, you know, he was Madame Bovary, and in some cases, yeah, I mean, I would say now, somebody like Amir, really kind of a romantic guy, coincidentally, well, yeah, but now, I hope the poems are, I don't know, I hope where the poems go is the thing for the reader, but it's okay if they aren't. So I'm sorry I didn't give you any percentages at all.
No, that's okay.
You say, oh, he's 100% BS
Then you're
to me.
into it.
Yeah, right. Why did Montgomery College bring him out here? Oh, I'm sorry, yes.
I was going to add to your answer that it will be 100% and then 100% nonfiction. And the reason is, and it's a word to look up and you just grasp it, confabulation. If your brain is emotional and you witness something, you're going to put the puzzle pieces together according to the emotion at that moment. Even down to music, which is, you know, what you were referring to to what you were referring with your brother.
Mm-hmm.
That's exactly an example of it. And it's positively true for both, and it's positively not true for both.
Mm-hmm. I'm also back to you. I'm reminded. Thank you. I'm reminded of something the poet and essayist Al Young said. He was talking about the saxophonist Lester Young, Al Young's from Mississippi, as was Lester Young, and Al Young said, "I used to lie and say that he was a cousin, but it was true." So I kind of think that that's a bit of the game plan, you know, consciously or subconsciously for me. My main thing I think is just to, like I said, it sounds kind of corny, but like honoring the path and trying to, there's a line in a book by Jack Kerouac. This book's called Visions of Cody. It's kind of a more, I think, beautifully unwieldy version of On the Road. And it's like he says, he's driving through and he gets to the state line of Colorado and something like that. God comes down and says, is it right, like, go moan for man, blah, blah, blah. And he says at the end, and, you know, this world report you well and truly. So for me, that's kind of my ethos, is like, but see, then truly is tricky because it gets back to what you were saying about meshing ideas and what happens to be true. But I think the reportage part is it, you know, and I look around, I drove around my old neighborhood recently, and of course, and we can all do this, the neighborhood looks different, you know, places where you play, the alleys look smaller, but like there are historical plaques, invisible historical plaques everywhere I go. Like, that's where I tried to kiss so-and-so, and she's like, you better get your bookworm butt out my face, or whatever. But you see things which happen, and you know, these renovated houses and all, I'm thinking, wow, these are all, if they were like in Williamsburg or something, there might be a, you know, like a plaque there, first slow dance, whatever the heck it was. So the poems are like the plaques too, you know, this happened here. Within like 2 blocks, I saw like 10, I said, wow, there's like 10 new poems between here and 7th Street, you know. But I think that's what's always kind of called me. And then you figure out the parts, you know, this happened, you know, or it didn't. And yeah. Any other? These are good questions.
I have, just how do you know when a poem is finished? Like,
Yeah.
are the ones in the book done, or are you going to look at them and say, wow, I should have done something different?
How do you know the poem is finished? I often, I think, it's like combing your hair before you go out the house, you know, or whatever it is, and you think you can't get it right. You get it as close as you can. You know, I look at these poems and Fingering the Keys, and I would have done a lot of them differently now. And, you know, I think it's not even so much, well, sometimes it's what you say, but it's like how you said what you said. And like I mentioned earlier, some of the poems, I think, like they stop short of the goal line, so to speak. You know, I got to the 2-yard line and I kind of told a joke. And I think, oh, you know, why did you do that? And my challenge is not putting myself down too much. Like you look at old high school yearbook pictures and go, damn, I wore those pants, you know. Yeah, I think you get as, I don't know if you ever really, somebody said no poem is ever finished, it's only abandoned. And then I go back and think about my father, who used to just say, do your best, and then he'd walk out the room. So that's what I do. I'm sure even in a couple of months I'll look at these and think, and I still have time, you know, these are galleys, I could tweak them before October. But I know you can also overthink stuff, and you're never, if going back to the clothes metaphor, you like gabardine or pinstripe, you don't get out the house, you know. And but I think it's also important to look honestly at what you're doing, not just, you know, accuracy, but is the language what you want it to be, you know, where you want it to be, that kind of thing. And I have friends I'll run ideas by. If they say, like, I don't know, you buy a new car and they say, how you like my new car? And they say, oh, that color is interesting. Well, so I'll read something and they go, oh yeah, that third stanza is interesting. Or, you know, did you mean this? Or they'll say, I don't understand what this means. Which gives me pause. I'll take a day, 2 days, go back, look at it and think, I know what they mean. And if you know your friends well enough, you know whether the silence is the kind of, don't quit your day job kind of thing, you know? So, but it's all part of the, you know, it's part of the, I think the path, you know, being a writer or trying to be a writer. Anybody else? Well, it's the most fun I've had with questions in a long time. Yes?
A lot of times people will write, mostly the poems that I've heard seem to be written from the voice of the poet, your actual self. Occasionally I come across a poem where somebody takes on a different persona, and it's interesting to see what happens. Have you done that, and if so, what has that experience been like for you?
I think the persona stuff is more on the page, you know. Now I could read a Kelly poem to show, like, you know, but it would still sound like me. I think I understand what your question is. Yeah, see, for me, it's like how the poems are put together, what they address. That's the different persona from my perspective. Mm-hmm. I mean, you're talking almost like what different dramatic readings and people.
Right, somebody will take a different identity, sort of, to write the poem.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Yeah, for me, those identities are in the pieces. Mm-hmm. Like, you know, so the Amir piece is he's in love with Khadijah, and well, I'll give you, here's a Kelly piece about middle age. Old school paper, you know. I guess I belong to the Smithsonian, don't I? So a couple things about Kelly. Well, this is kind of technical, but Kelly, as I said, Kelly likes waltzes, and so it's like Chinese food, The Sound of Rain. Johann Strauss, who wrote the late 1800s from Vienna. He was called the Waltz King. He loved waltzes, and you know, he'll cut you out if you like give him stuff about liking waltzes. But what he did was, what he writes is, it's 3 words per line. It's not a, you know, standardized form. But people say, why do you write like that? He said, because waltzes aren't 3/4 time, you know. So that's one thing that's a little different. But this is more of his kind of personality thing. So this is Kelly on middle age. I like glaring at phone-addicted young'uns who hog the seats set aside for seniors until they take their blank gaze elsewhere. I also like talking old school jams with the coffee shop crew. We have no money, fixed income, yo, no girlfriends, and no more verbal reticence. Some days, as Melvin said recently, my arthritic knees creak like coffin handles in need of some 3-in-1 oil. There used to be more of us laughing at his jokes. So for, you know, in the case of Kelly, thematically, more about middle age and mortality. A little snarky, like you get on the subway and the 20-something's got the senior seat and he's like, get the heck up, you know? And so that for me is where the shift occurs. And then people, of course, ask, well, do you get mad on the subways when this happens? Trying to find out if I'm Kelly. And in that case, yeah, I do. I do. Anybody else? It's okay.
So do we want to take a break and then do the workshop?
Okay, yo, it's 2:00. Wow. Okay.
We will do